Hello everybody, welcome to another live stream. And there's many of you that are already sat there watching and been waiting patiently. Thank you very much. I have been all day, every now and again, checking that the stream will work nicely and smoothly and swiftly. And it's been doing so just fine until 15 minutes before the stream, where I asked it to do its thing and it just decided to start playing silly buggers. So I'm hoping that things are going to go okay. It hasn't actually dropped a frame yet. It's been running for a few minutes. It was running for a few minutes before I actually turned it on. But with any luck, things will actually go okay. So if you can do the obligatory check, of course, to tell me that you can hear and see me, that will be grand. There is actually about a 20-second delay or so between myself and yourselves. That's good. Everything's going okay. Right. Now, we do have to start with a piece of business from last time around. Oh, you're a little bit overexposed there, James. Sort that out. A man called Robert, I believe it was. Let me just double check this because he messaged me. Yes, Robert, who's Mr. E30. He sent a donation through very kindly at the end of the last stream, and I kind of gave him half an answer, and it turned things off. Unfortunately, this is what happens when there's a delay. He asked me a question, sent me some money to answer the question very kindly, and I didn't really give him a proper response. So now I would like to. So he has a very nice E30 BMW. It's been off the road since 2010, 171,000 miles on it, sold from a dealership with a creative MOT and needed the real it needs some work done. So yeah, looks like a lovely car, and I believe you wanted to know about what to do with the car, whether to modify it, to upgrade it, or whatever. So I think an E30 is something you should be able to resto mod and to work with. My personal feelings for the car will be to try and retain as much about the sort of originality as you can. So don't drop an S54 into it or something like that. Keep the original engine. I've driven a few E30s. It's a real peach of an engine. It's a great sound, a real great feel to it. Maybe make a few cosmetic tweaks and stuff like that. But honestly, these days, a really nicely turned out E30 is a wonderful thing to behold. So I'd probably recommend going as much the sort of resto route as the modification one. So I hope that gives you some sort of answer to your question. If there's something more specific you wanted to know about, please do message me after the live stream on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. So, got plenty of people watching already. In fact, we're up to just shy of 150 viewers as is. Got some familiar faces, Ollie Ricks, Neil. We've got the car guys watching, so hello guys. I am in fact currently editing a conversation that I had with Damien of Car Guys fame, which I really enjoyed. So I've done a few interview type bits recently with some of my YouTube brethren, so Scott from Ratarossa, Laurie, now of Laurie's Mechanical Marvels, formerly obviously of JayEmm on Cars, and I spoke to Damien about doing it, but he didn't like the whole just man talking type thing. He preferred a more sort of interactive feel. So I've had a sit down with him. It was about an hour and a half. It's actually about an hour and 40 we actually spoke for. So it's going to wind up with over an hour of content from us. And there's some really interesting stuff in there. At some point, we even talk about cars. So I think that hopefully will be for the people like yourselves who like to tune into the live stream and whatnot. I think that'll be something that you would enjoy. And I'm hoping to do that again with a few of my YouTube friends, especially hopefully if things kind of open up and get a little bit better as the sun comes out. I don't know how it is for where you've all been, but it turned glorious today. So my day started with reviewing a Mark I Ford Focus, a 1.6 edge trim, a run-out version from about 2004. And the guy who got in touch with me with this car, he suggested it as part of my sort of cool cars for young people series. And I love that series to bits, one of my absolute favourites. And the car I think he sent me a picture of was not the car that appeared, because the car he sent me a picture of was a bit scruffy looking, and kind of like most Mark I Focus are these days. The car he turned up in looked like it had just rolled out of a museum. Absolutely gorgeous, in really superb condition. Just a couple of little scratches and bits here and there, but honestly looked like it was 2 years old, not sort of 17. Had 50 odd thousand miles on the clock, and I've got to say it was just a real pleasure to drive. No, not very fancy inside, not very quick or anything like that. Car was totally standard, just kept in really good condition. And I have to say, I really had a blast with that. So, as the internet appears to be more or less behaving, it keeps worrying me because on the streaming software, you get that little icon down here which tells me the bit rate that it's sending out to, and it's not doing it at the rate it should, but you can hear me and see me, so that's decent. So, if people can send me, oh, Mr. E30, that was most unnecessary, sending more cash through, but it's always appreciated because I am running out of Pepsi Max, and I will be topping that up at some point soon. So thank you very much. Let's get started with the questions, shall we? A few people have spoken about the speakers that I have. Yes, these are KEFs. These are KEF R100s. I will be doing a second hi-fi video through March. We are going to be doing a giveaway. I mentioned this in the last live stream, and it's here, so I'll point it out. We have a little Dali catch that my buddy James at DB Hi-Fi has sorted out for me, so thanks to him and Dali. And in March, we're going to be giving that away. It's 330 quid, those things. And it's really rather nice. Compared to, say, your average, you know, Alexa Echo or Dot or whatever, the sound quality is superb. I mean, I do have nice stuff to listen to all the time, but this is so listenable, so lovely. You just plug it into your phone, plug it in, Bluetooth it, and it's great. So more hi-fi stuff is coming because that seemed to go down quite well. Though I have found out that hi-fi is a world that's perhaps even more sort of argumentative and tribal than cars. Didn't think I'd find that. As it happens, yes, stumbled into the hornet's nest I did with some of the things I said in my video. Max, who's currently watching, hi Max, he has a R8 V10 manual, which was on the channel. That's currently on Collecting Cars, and in fact, I've still even got the thing open. So that's ending in an hour and 20 minutes. So if anyone is feeling frivolous, they can pop onto Collecting Cars and buy themselves an R8. It's currently at £48,750, and at that price currently, that is a bargain. That car I really enjoy driving. My neighbour over the road has just bought himself an R8 as well, his first supercar, and I have major proxy excitement. I'm sure you must get this, but like, yeah, when people get new cars, I'm like, ooh, especially when it's something I know that they've wanted for so very long. My friend Mr. Dean actually incidentally has just paid me for the pizza that I have ordered for him. So we have been filming and working together today. So I should be feeding him in a little bit. He's off in another room doing God knows what. I don't want to think about it. Okay, so let's have a look at the questions we've got. So a few people talking about the video that I did today. All right, okay, so Taylor mentioned something because I realised when I then put out today's video that maybe I didn't actually explain things properly. I'm not going to do an apology because that would just be stupid. But here's my thing. So in the new Artura, they have the little electric motor in there, which can put up to 95 horsepower, you know, to the ground, in addition to the power which the new V6 already makes. So the total combined power output is about 680 horsepower. However, after 15 seconds of full throttle, the electric motor then more or less halves its power output to just under 50 horsepower. So my thing is, well, that to me sounds more like it has an overboost function and its base level of power should really be like 630 horsepower, not 680. I think because it's, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I always think it's better if you say, well, the car's 630 horsepower, but it can go to 680. Would make 720S owners a little bit happier. But the thing is, I haven't seen a video anywhere explaining currently, and it wasn't in anything McLaren have put out so far, that is it just a case of, look, here's the thing. There's very few places where you really can hold your foot down for 15 seconds flat stick in a car that quick. Yeah, I know that. And on the road, I'm sure it's probably not an issue at all. But if you are going somewhere, say like Silverstone, Snetterton, or that, where you are at full throttle for quite a long time, are you going to reach a stage quickly where the car, you know, runs out of electric power? This was the problem that the 918 had. If you guys remember that, the 918 Spider was slower around the Nürburgring than the GT2 RS, despite having supposedly a lot more power. The reason being that it will eventually run out of electricity. So the last sort of, you know, was it 2 minutes of the lap, it's essentially carrying around the electric motor and battery and everything and not gaining anything from it. The McLaren doesn't have brake regen, so it's only the engine that can recharge the battery. So it's kind of a case of, well, how quickly can it go back to full power? And here's the thing, because the electric motor is providing a torque fill, a sort of torque boost, it's not just you're losing 50 horsepower at the top end where you might rarely go, but that's 50 horsepower throughout the entire rev range. So that, I think, would make a tangible difference. You're going to notice if 50 horsepower has just vanished at like 2,000 RPM. So that's my thing with that. So, but the video I did today, people seem to get what I was going for with it. I think it's really important in the light of recent events on YouTube. If people do make mistakes, if they do cock up, there is a way to deal with that and to be honest about that and to take responsibility for it. And as I've seen, people will respect you for that in business. And I'm sure many of you watching, you know, run your own business or work in business of some description, you know, where you've got to interact with the public or other businesses. We all make mistakes, and that's fine. Making a mistake doesn't really have to be a problem in of itself. It's simply how you deal with that mistake is the way that people will then judge you forevermore. So, Gary Theobald wants to know if I've driven a Peel. I haven't, no. Did they make anything beyond the P45? Was it P40? P45 was the Top Gear one, wasn't it? No, it was the Peel, the P50. Because the tiny car, isn't it? It was the world's smallest car. HH wants to know what I think of the Mark III Ford Focus. I drove the RS quite a while ago, but I do have an ST review planned for the next week or so, not to film rather than to put out. So I should be hopefully giving you all a decent assessment on the Mark. Is a 3 or a 3.5 ST? I can't remember which. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because I've never really been a big Ford fan, but actually when I tend to encounter them, they're quite nice, enjoyable cars. So hello to Bobby, hello to Luke, hello to Anthony from Sports and Touring. If you haven't subscribed to him, please do. Oh, Lemaren77 is from Sweden. Hello from England. Okie dokie. All right, there we go. SS Gill wants to know where Florence is. I would like to know that too. Last spotted heading north through the garden. Oh, Paul sent some... the one thing I don't like about this live chat function is that if someone then adds something new, it will kind of just bounce through. So I'll be halfway through reading something and then it will drop straight through, which makes me look rather incompetent on occasion. And I don't need help looking incompetent. I can do that all on my own. All on my own. Okay, so... Harry Short says, as an addition, he's not sure how I could portray it, but the Mark 1 KA could make an interesting video. Yeah, it should, actually. I've driven one of those on a couple of occasions because Thorny Motorsport had one for a bit, and I took it out to lunch, you know, back in those halcyon days when you could go out to lunch and all that jazz without putting a hazmat suit on. And yeah, it's rather fun. The Mark 4 Fiesta, isn't that also the chassis for the Puma? As well, because the Puma is a wicked handy little thing. I drove the racing Puma, which I take it is obviously going to be quite different, but yeah, that's going to be quite exciting. Mad Matt, congratulations, congratulations for remembering to join in for the live chat this time round. Paul CS, thank you for your donation, very kind, and also to Jaguars, who sent me some, I think that's some rand, some South African rand. So thank you very much, it's very kind. We're an international audience this evening. We've got people from Sweden, people from South Africa. Somebody has spotted that the grey Venturi that I reviewed is up on Auto Trader at the moment. Yes, I believe it's been up there for quite some time because the guy is a car dealer, so I think when you're a car dealer, everything is kind of for sale all the time. So, and he had another car. So the Venturi Atlantique, really weird, bizarre car. If you haven't seen the video on it, do it. It's one of the videos I'm most proud of because I was the first person, as far as I'm aware, in 20 years to do a video on a Venturi in English. The only other examples on YouTube that I can find of a review of a Venturi are Vicky Butler Henderson when she was still on Top Gear and Richard Hammond when he was on Men and Motors. And the Venturi was a new car at the time, and that was about 99, and I think my video came out in 2019. So yeah, that was that was cool. That was really, really exciting. Anthony Webb, don't worry about being late. All are welcome here. I shall not judge. Lux wants to know if I still like the LC500, the Lexus. Yeah, really, really do. I think it's a fabulous car, criminally underrated. I think people don't get it, and I can totally see that. Very heavy car, not masses of power. So if you want the sportiest experience, it doesn't deliver that. but as something that just stands out, as something that makes you feel magnificent, it is just a winner. I wish they hadn't put the silly little trackpad system in there for all the infotainment and whatnot, but, you know, yeah, it's other than that, it's a brilliant thing. Craig on Cars also runs a small YouTube channel. I commented on a video he made the other day about his E30 BM. That's the 8 Series, the original 8 Series, because that's cool. Once upon a time, I tried to persuade my dad to buy an 850 CSI, and I think we could have got one for about 20 grand. I really should have pushed harder for that. Really should have pushed harder. I also nearly tried to get someone to buy an SLS when they were like 90 grand or so, and they've bounced right back up as well. Julian wants to know my thoughts on the new GT3, which I'm happy to share. I think it's an incredible piece of kit. I'm really surprised, not just at what Porsche have done. Double wishbone suspension at the front is a dramatic change to make to a car. To have completely, not just different suspension, different type of suspension, a wholly different suspension architecture at the front of the car is a big thing. The carbon bonnet as standard is a big thing. The aero looks pretty extreme. I mean, really, this has the makings of looking more like the GT3 RS than it does the GT3. I believe they were kind of really sort of up against it in terms of what they could do with the engine. I don't think it has any more power than the outgoing one. So they've just gone crazy mad on the aero. Probably is going to sound a little bit flat because it's got a particulate filter in it. That's just kind of the way of things. I hope it's going to be mega fun to drive because the 992 just isn't. And yeah, I really want to go in one. I just couldn't believe, I absolutely could not believe the base price is 123 grand. Obviously, you still need to option it. You still probably want to stick like 10 to 20 grand on top of that. But that's still, considering the prices that the, you know, old GT3s go for, I think this is still going to feed the flipping fires, as it were. So, yeah. Somebody wanted to know what videos I have coming out soon. So, as you people are all very lovely and you're joining me for the live stream, I will happily let you know. 221 people watching, 284 people, sorry, watching already. Isn't that marvellous? Well, I have up here on my computer-assisted laser display system a few of the videos that's coming out. So, we have a BMW M240i manual, completely standard car video coming out. On Tuesday is going to be a little bit ranting about Lotus and what they're going to be doing in the near future. It's a lot of guesswork in that video. It's more a sort of feeling, it's more a mood, you know, rather than sort of incisive industry insight, that one. An Alpina D3 with a great story behind it. It's on like, it's nearly moon mileage. It's not quite there. It's like 240,000 miles or something. And it's only like a 2016 car that has a great story attached to it as well that I found quite entertaining. And then a Ford Fiesta ST150 review. So that's another entry in the cool cars for young people. I'll try and do another live next week. Then a Cupra Ateca video. And then I'm probably going to round out February with something Ferrari related. There's a few different videos I want to do. One is kind of wankily titled, like, does owning a Ferrari change your life? Which is the concept of a video. I haven't filmed it yet. The other I do want to do because I just bought a toolkit for the 550, which was £560. And I'm never ever going to use it, but yet I'm really excited about having it. So obviously, being a YouTuber, I need to get all the money I can for it. So I'm going to be doing a video on why I bought a £560 toolkit for my Ferrari that I will never use. So yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. Bobby D wants to know if I make owl noises when someone buys a new car. Yeah. I mean, we've all heard owls going, "Nice car, mate." That's the noise they make. Paul CS warns me also of hi-fi people being nutcases. I know this to be true. Trust me. Okay. Do I watch Filmmaker IQ? No, I don't. You know what? Having been inside the film industry, I have very little interest in watching people talking about it because I find that they're often talking an awful lot of nonsense, or they're talking about something that they know about already, or something that I'm just happy to form my own opinion on. So it's just a bit of a, no, you know, films were always just entertainment for me. And one of the nice things about being outside of the industry, although I still have connections and a perspective on things, I'm just happy just being out of it and just being able to just watch movies and enjoy. Wish I could go to the cinema. I was going to say more. What I mean to say is at all at the moment, because I desperately miss that. As soon as the cinema reopens, I am just going to go and do just a major film bender, basically. And what really annoying is that actually in the sort of last month or two before Cineworld closed, Cineworld is my local branch of cinema, they had a great lineup because they were playing like Back to the Future, I think they had Scarface, like all classics, like a couple of new films, but mostly it was just old stuff because I think they had nothing new to show. So I thought it was a great bunch of films, like really cool. Would I ever consider reviewing an Audi RS4 B5? Yes, I am going to be doing an RS4 B5. A gentleman called Carl has offered me a go of his. I think we've been trying to get the car working, get some dates together. I nearly bought one a few years ago. I was very tempted. A chap I knew had one. He offered it to me. Really, I mean, I say cheap. You'd think it was suspiciously cheap now, but back then it wasn't. It was like about $5 or $6 grand, and I was, you know, I didn't have much money back then, and I was like, oh, if I do this and this, and maybe I could, you know, maybe I could afford that. Until I chatted with him a bit more, and it turned out that over the last like 2-3 years or something, it had cost him like 20 grand. And I just thought, nah. Those must be one of the cars with the highest like running cost to purchase cost ratios, like absolutely obscene, like completely mad. Any thoughts on the new Maserati MC20? Yes, I think it just looks a bit dull. It sounds dull as well. I just, yeah. I just. I'm really hoping it drives, you know, brilliantly and is amazing and exciting once you're in it. But just looking at it, I'm just like, I don't know. I think with the new Artura, with the you know, Ferrari will be doing a V6 hybrid or so, all sorts of stuff. I think they need to work out what it is they're going to do, because at the moment they seem to be running the risk of becoming like another NSX, where it just comes out and everyone's like, oh, did anyone see one of those? No? Okay, fine. So yeah. Okay. Right, what do we got? Oh, Gordon Murray is going to be interviewed by Harry's Garage. What are my thoughts on the T50? Is it just a fad, or will it be a breakthrough? The T50... The T50 is, I think... I mean, Gordon Murray's, you know, he's getting on now. He's not a young man anymore. The T50, the one thing I felt a bit odd when I watched... I mean, let's face it. If you watched one T50 video, you have watched them all, because every single one of them more or less was the same. The one thing I didn't really like so much about it was I almost felt like the T50 was his apology for the McLaren F1, because every single part of the T50, he seemed to go, oh, well, we tried this on the McLaren F1, only it didn't really work. Oh, well, we wanted to do this with the F1, only we didn't have the money all the time. Oh, well, we did this on the F1, but now we've done it better. And I just felt like maybe of all people, he should be over the F1, but yet he seems really stuck with trying to sort of, you know, better the F1. Maybe that's a good thing, because the F1 is still, I think, a legendary car for many good reasons. And I never even sat in one, sadly. But the T50, to me, if I was in the kind of market for, you know, a car of that value, I think I would be very interested in one, because I'm pretty confident it is going to be genuinely one of a kind. I mean, there's loads and loads of cars out there for, you know, 2 million quid or whatever, where they're very tarty looking things that seem like they've got some wild engineering and stuff in them, but ultimately certain parts of them are quite ordinary, whereas the T50 looks like he's just done the whole thing from top to bottom as good as it can possibly be. How they're going to get that engine through emissions, I do not know, because that thing looks absolutely barking, but I'm just glad he's done it. I really am. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like they say, oh, they don't make them like these anymore. Like, that is the one car that's like, I thought that sort of thing was dead. I thought it was gone. So, yeah. Okay. Fiesta ST or Clio RS200? I haven't driven an RS200 yet. Sorry about that. Or a 197, which I think is very similar. So I'd like to. Same again for my opinion on the Subaru, a Legacy 3-litre with the flat 6 in it, which is an immensely cool car, but I've yet to have the pleasure. I have got a review booked as a GTB spec something or other. So yeah, so I should do that. Stavros has a good question, which I can definitely answer. He wants to know if I've driven any Jaguars recently. Yes, I have. I have driven, I drove the other day 2005 XKR, so the first gen XKR, premium edition car, in really good condition. Well, I'm very glad to have got that on the channel. I've been wanting to get an early XKR on the channel. And actually, it's been about 8-9 years since I drove an early XKR. So I really wanted to see, because I couldn't really remember much about it. And I really wanted to see what it was like. So I thought, yeah, this is a great opportunity. Went out, drove it. Really, really good. Opel made a Trident as well, apparently. That's good. Okay. Lewis wants to know what my problem with the Defender is. They're tragically badly made. Nothing. I've never known anything that looks so big and butch and bulky to be just so flipping flimsy. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. They break. They're uncomfortable. They're slow. They're noisy. But people love them, and that's not a problem, but people seem to be almost entirely blind to their faults, a bit like a Baths. However, I am driving in a Bath 595, a very nice chap who's in the community who has lent me, or is going to be lending me, his 595 Competizione, which many people have said is the car I should have driven in the first place. And so I'm going to be doing that and seeing whether maybe I've been unfairly trashing a Bath. So I'm keeping my mind open. I'm really actually looking forward to that one. David Anderson wants to know if I ever plan to tour the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Well, I actually have, in fact, already been. And if you ever see me in a Corvette jacket, I purchased that at the museum in Bowling Green. And I've got a really wild Corvette shirt as well. Mad Matt pointed out that John actually have 2 Venturis for sale. So I think I started something earlier and didn't finish it. That's very common for me. Yeah, so I drove a twin-turbo Venturi as well, because they later made a bi-turbo. So the story was, and I actually spoke to Nicholas Mee, because they were the UK distributor. They really loved the Venturi, because I thought, you know, with a brand like that, like this distributor, they've gone to all the effort of, you know, selling this brand. They're representing them, all that jazz. You know, they've done this thing. So, but then it all failed and it all went wrong. So I thought, you know what, Nicholas Mee, he's still about. Let's phone him, speak to him. It's going to go one of two ways, isn't it? Because you either phone him and he's going to go, oh, Venturi, oh, yeah, oh, that was so good, oh, I loved it. Or he's going to go, Venturi, don't speak to me about it. And as it turns out, it was more the former. They made the original ones, and then they went to go and buy a load more of the engine. And I cannot remember the name of it. Is it the PRV engine, the Peugeot, Renault, Volvo, whatever, the V6? They went to go and buy a load more, and it had been discontinued. So they had to re-engineer the entire car around this new engine, which is the one, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one same appeared in the Clio V6. They did a bi-turbo version of that. There were 3 UK cars, I think. John actually sold one, so there's only 1 or 2 remaining in the country. No one was ever clear whether 2 or 3 existed, because we think 3 were made, but 1 may have been smashed up fairly early on. So it's sort of, it's one of these kind of mystery cars. Okay. AV Geeks enjoyed my McLaren videos. Thank you very much. Oh, Colin BKK has a good question. What car do I love, but I know it's not very good? In some ways, I think my S2000 fits the bill, because in a lot of measurable ways, it isn't the best of cars. It isn't very fast. It is quite cramped in there. It doesn't handle like a Lotus or anything like that. I could see very easy. If somebody came to me and said, I hate S2000s, I'd be like, yeah, fine. A valid argument, well made. But no, it's, you know, yes, maybe that. And I do genuinely really love my S2000. I've really fallen for it. But yeah, hey-ho. Okay, Richard Johnson's got a question. Are there any cars I reviewed that I wouldn't have otherwise because of COVID or whatever? No, not really. I mean, because it's been work for me, so I've more or less sort of kept going, not at the same pace as I have previously. In the sort of subsequent lockdowns, like lockdown the second and lockdown 3, the return, most manufacturers are still open. Not all of them are open for business, but most of them are. So I've managed to sort of keep just keep doing stuff, really. Also, it's been really nice to actually start doing more videos on my own cars, because one of the reasons you don't see a lot of videos about my own cars on the channel is I kind of live in this constant fear of like, oh, what happens if, you know, we get the snow like we did the other week? What happens if I'm ill? Or what happens if just nobody wants to bring me a car for weeks? What can I do? You know, I need to have some emergency content always, you know, in waiting. And that was always my own cars. So I always wanted to, you know, have, like, because, you know, I usually have like 4 or 5 cars or whatever. So that's an easy week's worth of content, just an update on each car and whatever. So yeah, luckily I have then used the last 2 months as an excuse to start doing content. Obviously, things have happened as well. Like, for example, the Celica is actually being done. So there's actual progress to report. Same for the S2000. The 1 Series, I thought I never really did stuff on it before, so I should do that. The Ferrari keeps doing things, so I need to sort that. Okay, also had another donation from Ice. Thank you very much. That's from some catnip for Florence, and actually I do have some catnip in the back of the car already, so that's paid for that, so thank you very much. And I can assure you she is a junkie. She will love the catnip, so thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it, as always. Okie dokie. So, all right, Jimmy Hallett wants to ask my thoughts on the Alfa Romeo Brera. I had a Brera for a bit, and I would love to do a video on one again. It's one of the best examples of a car that was almost brilliant. Almost. Gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful thing to look at. Wonderful. Interior, stunning. Felt really upmarket. But, few problems. The engines were all crap. I had the 3.2 litre with the Q4 4-wheel drive system because I wanted a V6. I didn't want a front-wheel drive car. I have this real thing about front-wheel drive cars. If I can get a rear-wheel drive one, I would prefer that. And as far as I'm concerned, the all-wheel drive system was kind of as good as, because it's not a Haldex system, it's a proper Torsen, and it can send, like, was it 70% of its power to the rear or whatever. It didn't really need it, because it was only like 260 horsepower. And the car weighs, like, 1.8 tons. It's the same weight as a Nissan GTR R35, but without anywhere near the power. The V6 engine is nowhere near as sexy as the old Busso, because it's just a GM lump with Alfa heads on it. And then you get criminal unreliability. They rust like nobody's business. Mine was actually quite good, but on some examples, the subframes just basically dissolve. The best, the biggest thing about it that made me get rid was the rear seat space. There was none. My driver's seat, in my normal driving position, I'm 5'10", I'm not especially tall, it was touching the seat behind me. So that meant essentially it was basically a 2-seater, really. If you've got anyone of any height in the passenger seat, you kind of stuffed. And it's so upsetting, because when I got that car sorted and aligned and everything, it drove so nice. But they just packaged it awfully. Absolutely awful. Sam says, I've reviewed some minis. What I do an R56 Cooper. I think I've done an R56 Cooper S or John Cooper Works video. I've definitely done a few R56s. Have a search through the videos. I definitely have done plenty of those. The car guys wants to know how my time has been with the Giulietta diesel, which is my courtesy car that I get when I take the 550 down to Meridian Modena for servicing. The Giulietta has been all right. Again, actually, much like the Brera, frustrating. Shortly after I'd filmed with Damien, because I said to him, my mum used to have a Giulietta and it was awful. In fact, one day it decided it didn't want to get DAB radio anymore. 5 minutes down the road from Damien, and all of a sudden, I can't get DAB radio reception for the next 24 hours. The car just doesn't want to do it. Reset, turn it off, turn it on, refresh, no, DAB, not happening. It's fairly economical. The engine actually pulls quite hard from load down, which is decent. It steers really nice, But the Giuliettas feel so cheap inside. The complete opposite to the Brera. Brera felt like it was a way more expensive car than it was. Giulietta feels like an absolute bargain basement trash. Even the top end models, the QVs, are exactly the same. Awful. Absolutely awful. So, yeah, there you go. Dirt McGirt says the T50 looks like a cross between a McLaren F1 and a washing machine, and he's not wrong. Not wrong at all. Okay, my thoughts on the BMW N54 335i. They're a good car. The 335s and stuff, I've always had an interest in, but part of me kind of would say either get a 330, because I love the old naturally aspirated engine, which is the same one that getting the 130, or just get an M3. The 335s, they were the car the tuners loved, because you could make them quite quick. And I think they've had very hard lives. The 330, I think, is going to have been owned by a more discerning customer. I also, at the time, I could have bought a 335i a while ago. I mean, when I say while, I mean like years, like 6 years ago or something. And I bought a 645 instead, which now you could have a buttons. And again, you probably get a 650i for kind of the same money as a 335, and it's a lot more car in pretty much every way. More engine, more car, feels a bit smaller inside, huge boot. It's just a lot more luxurious, feels way more upmarket than a 3 Series. So yeah, there you go. Okie dokie. All right. Murphy wants to know S2000 or Elise. He was all for an S2000, but a 111R is not much more. And he feels they'll both only rise in value. I think you could be right about that. Japanese car prices, especially like, you know, classic, you know, much wanted Japanese cars, they are going up in price sort of all the time. I don't think the S2000 is going to rise too much, because it's just it's maybe too common. Isn't rare like say an R34 GTR or something like that. But you're still brilliant car. The Elise is great as well, and I had a 111R. The question you need to ask yourself is a simple one, and she has appeared. Florence is here, so Ice Age, she wants say thank you for your catnip. Yeah, there you go. As you can tell, she has a smoker's meow. Here's the thing you need to ask yourself. Are you going to drive this frequently, or is it going to be an occasion car? If it's an occasion car, I would say go with the Elise. Fabulous, wonderful, special thing. Any more than an hour in an Elise, and yeah, I'd had enough. Mine had a Larini exhaust, which just droned, especially at 70 mile an hour, which is difficult because that's the speed you're doing when you're traveling long distances. So it was awful. You couldn't hear the radio above 30 mile an hour. Getting the roof on and off is just a bit of a pain, and it's just awkward to squeeze in or out regardless of how big or small you are. The S2000, not as quick, doesn't handle as well, got plenty of storage in the back, and most importantly, you open the door, you get in, click clip, press a button, roof comes down, drive, enjoy. Starts raining, oh dear. Stop, handbrake on, button, clip clip, off you go. The S2000 is a long way from the driving experience that the Elise is, regardless what S2000 people might tell you. My S2000 is never going to handle like the Elise does, whatever. But it's so much more livable. Still has its own flaws, of course. You know, being on the motorway at 4,000 RPM gets very tiring. But actually, if the exhaust isn't silly, it doesn't bother you as much as you think it might. Okay, Diego wants to know why I sold the 760 Li, and I saw somebody else also asked what I think about Joel, who now owns it, straight piping it. I think he's mad. I was always tempted to do that, as I was with the Mercedes S500 that I had before, and then I realised that actually to do so is completely against the character and nature of the car. That's just not really what a 760 should be about. It's about the sort of quiet, understated luxury. You've got the V12 badge on the side. That's all you need. You know it's fast. Yeah, he's mad. Well done to him. Fair play. It is a good video to have made as well, because I don't think it really cost him much to straight pipe it. But I think he's going to get quite bored of that quite quickly, because it's going to just make a racket all the time, and that totally undoes everything about having a 7 Series. Somebody's asked me, was it Sparky or Ollie, I cannot recall, so sorry, about a S-Type for, oh yeah, Ollie. It's Ollie asked me, how brave is a £995 3-litre V6 S-Type? Is it S-Class or 7 Series brave? Well, the good news is that the most you could possibly lose is about £95. The one thing with the S-Type that seems to be an issue for them is rust. I nearly bought one with Laurie because we wanted just a fun, cheap runabout. And the guy said, oh yeah, got the car, sorted loads of stuff with it, it's all good, but I'm emigrating and the MOT's run out, so yeah, sorry, car needs to go. But it sounded like it was a you know, really, really good car. But we did the MOT check, because you can do that now. You just put the number plate in, done. It had failed its MOT on all 4 corners for major corrosion issues. And less than like 9 hours later or something, it had been then put on eBay. So I messaged him going like, had a minute, you know, have you just forgot about this? You know, and he's, oh, sorry, yeah, no, I copy and pasted the ad from something else. Did you really? So if it's structurally solid, I'd say an S-Type's a good shout. I really do like the S-Type, but just check it's got a kosher MOT and it's not already an absolute nail. So yeah. So Krishna Hurry has just bought himself a GR Yaris circuit pack. Any tips for somebody only used to front wheel drive? Yeah, drive the car first off in its regular mode, which is then, I think, 70% front-wheel drive, 30% rear-wheel drive. If you want to know more about the running of a GR Yaris, Jason of the Car Guys has just bought himself one, so check their video out on that. The car will rotate around you, and it will be rear-biased, especially if conditions are slippery and you're really pressing on. So keep traction control and everything on for now. Get used to the car, get used to the power. Track mode is the 50-50 split. So then try that next, and then move to sport mode last, because that's the one that then puts it like 70% rearwards. Now you're just taking the mickey. Now you're just being a drama llama. Daddy's working. Hello, everyone. So, Boonies, how long should I keep my 981 GTS? As long as you want to keep it till you get bored with it, really. Okie dokie. Stephen wants to know, will I be driving an 812 Superfast anytime soon? Later this year, I will be driving the 812 GTS. I haven't driven the Superfast. It's a shame that I won't be able to do that. But yeah, should be doing a GTS. Very much looking forward to that. I suspect I'm going to rather enjoy that. Now, I don't know what the car's actually going to be like, whether it's going to be any good or not. I suspect it's going to be very good in many ways. But let's be honest here. A near 800 horsepower, naturally aspirated V12 Ferrari with a roof that comes down. It's going to be hard to give that one back, I think. But we shall see. We shall see. Okie dokie. Tommy wants to know how a Mountune Performance Fiesta ST, so that'd probably be Mark 7, I guess, would compare to a real sports car like a 986, an MX-5, or a GT86 in terms of overall fun. I mean, you know what? The Fiestas are really fun. Really, really fun. It's not like a Porsche or something is less fun than a Fiesta. It's just a different type of fun. You know, in the same way that, like, I love steak, but I also love cake. It's not that one's more tasty or less tasty than the other. They're both delicious. It's just one's made from cows and one's made from cake. So yeah. Breeze wants to know if I'm going to be doing any track days this year. You know, I don't think I will. And maybe I'll get invited to one or two. I think a couple of people have invited me already to some stuff, and I might just go and watch. But yeah, I don't have anything that I'd want to drive on track at the minute. The S2000 is not going to be a track car. It might be too noisy as well with the ITBs when they're on. So yeah, so no stuff. Apostolos, here's a great question. I think it's a movie-related one. I'm thinking, by the way, of doing a live stream at some point where the rule is, you know, no car questions. I think that will be kind of fun. Let me know if you'd like to see that, or if you ask a car question, you know, you've got to put £1 in the swear jar. You know, favorite actor turned director. He also asked. He's asked two great movie related questions. Actor turned director. Could be Clint Eastwood. Could be Clint. He's turned out some very, very good films as a director. Or what movie? Yeah. So what movie do I want to erase my mind so I can relive it like the first time? From Dusk Till Dawn. I love showing people From Dusk Till Dawn who have no idea what it's about. Make sure they don't read the synopsis and then just play it, and that's a lot. From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, that it has to be that, I think. Okay. All right. So let's scroll through again. So this is the problem. I sort of wind up going back up, and I don't answer things in the right order. I'm very sorry about that. Okay. On Mystery 30 also mentions there is a company in Wales reproducing the Mark 1 and Mark 2 Ford Escorts. I saw a piece about that on Piston Heads, so I may chat to them at some point. The thing you find, though, with really small companies like that is they don't tend to be interested in small YouTubers because, you know, the company has limited resources, so they just want to get it out to the biggest outlets that they can. So they're going to give it to Top Gear, to you know, Auto Trader, to, you know, Seen Through Glass, whatever. So yeah. Incidentally, I saw Seen Through Glass has put out a video with one of Jaguar's reborn E-Types. So I'm going to be. I have emailed them because they have an E-Type that was previously owned by my father, and I've been offered a few E-Types to drive on the channel, and I've refused every one of them because I would like the first E-Type I ever drive to be Dad's old car. I think that would be quite a... And the funny thing was, I had no particular love for the car at the time. Neither really did he. But it was a special thing. Like, we knew it was a special car at the time. And, yeah, I think... that is what the car I'd like to drive first as my first E-Type experience. I think it's more authentic as well than driving a sort of essentially brand new car. I'm sure that's probably a much, much better car, but for £300,000 it really should be. Okay. Have I ever tried a Mitsubishi Legnum or Galant VR4? They are underrated. I think they are underrated. I haven't driven one though, although I'm sure my school friend's dad had a Galant VR4. I remember being like, oh, that's cool. My thoughts on the new Lotus Exige 390. That is... I don't like it. I don't like it. It seems pointless because it's got the charged cooled motor that the 410 and 430 have. It's only 20 horsepower less than the 410, so you're like, well, why don't you just get a 410? I liked the 350 because it was the lighter, it was the purer one, it had a sensible exhaust on it, you could take it on track, all that jazz. Yeah. Now, Car Guys has asked another good question. What is the nerdiest piece of memorabilia that I've got? Cars or films? I have got a head gasket framed on the wall. That is true. I also have this piston from the same car. This is from my E46 M3, which cost me a flipping fortune, and I never ever forgave it. I also noticed the cat has been wandering near this because it's full of fur. This piston looks all right, doesn't it? It looks okay. The piston is not okay. The piston is not okay at all. This was still spinning around in my car, 8,000 RPM. It took a long time to diagnose this because they said they've never seen a piston so balked in a block that was so good. The block was absolutely fine, not scored, not damaged or anything. In terms of geeky film memorabilia, if you excuse me for 2 seconds, I'll show you all. I have this. So this doesn't really look like much. You've probably never heard of the film Avco, but many of you have probably seen it because Avco was the working title for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I pinched this. It was empty. It was just at a lab. It was going to go in a skip. So yeah, this is a real tin of film that actually was used in the production of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I hadn't seen the film at the time to know that it was rubbish. So yeah, but I got it, and it's been mounted on my wall in my office ever since. So there you go. Okay, right. Let's see more questions. Yeah, the Defender is a piece of farm equipment. Okay. If I could get my hands on a 695 Biposto, would I give it a shot? Absolutely. Nuts, bonkers little things. The 695 Biposto is firmly in that category of, I don't want one, I don't care for it, but I'm very glad it exists. Very glad about that. Okay, so would I be interested in reviewing a 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Veloce? Yes, I would. The last time I was at Meridian, which wasn't very long ago, so this was when I filmed the video. Oh no, this was a different time, because I've been there a few times recently for various reasons. Yeah, so I got... no, it was when the car went in for its premium pack, sorry. I got a Giulietta diesel as a courtesy car. And I was driving it, and I was thinking, you know, this is quite a nice car. My mum saw it. She really, really liked it because I had to drop something off at hers. And she's looking for a new car. And I thought, wow, they're getting cheap now. They're like 16, 17 grand or something for a basic one. They, you know, they're good value. I thought the diesel engine was all right. It was economical. The interior, better than the Giulietta. Then I was nearly back at Meridian. I stopped to put fuel in it, so it went back to them full. I turned it on, and it fired like every warning in the book at me, including a brake warning. I went to go out the petrol forecourt, and the brakes, so the Giulia has drive-by-wire brakes. They're awful anyway, but in this case, it more or less didn't want to stop. It was kind of like pulling the handbrake on a little bit kind of level of stopping, even with my foot really hard down. Yeah, that was terrifying. Nearly crashed the car because it just refused to stop. Turned it off, turned it on again. The brakes fixed themselves, and then the power steering and traction control broke. So that was kind of, Alfa, please learn how to build a car that won't break. Like, give me an entire week without it falling apart, and I'll, yeah. Lap of the World is another YouTuber. I think he might be Richard as well. Don't quote me on that. He's got a original Honda, actually it's probably an Acura NSX, with a quarter of a million miles, I think it is. And he's got a Gallardo. And he's trying to do the NSX at as many racetracks all around the world as he can. So I promise you, as and when, if you bring your car to the UK, I'll definitely do something with you and try and get you into some tracks or whatever. Not that I have, you know, not that I have any particular in with tracks. But he points out that the Corvette Museum is a good visit, even if you're not a Corvette fan. And I would say absolutely yes, it is. If you are a car fan, the Corvette Museum, and there's a museum kind of, I'm not sure it's a museum or a dealer, but there's a bunch of cars right next door to the entrance to the Corvette Museum, which is separate. Well worth looking at as well. Some really cool American stuff in there. And the Corvette Museum is cool. And also, yeah, the massive hole in the floor, the sinkhole that you might remember from a few years ago, they've made a big feature out of that, and you can walk over like the sinkhole itself, and it's incredible. And they've got a couple of the cars that, you know, came out. So yeah. MP says, if you had 30 grand and needed a daily, what would be your car of choice? So daily there is going to imply that it needs to be sort of reasonably usable. Now it's actually a lot less than 30 grand, but I keep having this thing about the old Audi S4 with the supercharged V6 in it. I've got kind of a thing for those. Otherwise, actually, you know what? I'd be kind of tempted by an old Lexus LS because they're just madly cool. Try and get one of the ones that's not a hybrid, so probably like the 460 or something. They're quite cool. There's a lot of car for not a lot of money. Again, you're going to get change out of 30 grand out of that. So yeah, so there you go. Okay. 370Z guy wants to know what I think of the new Defender. I actually did a whole video talking about the new Defender, so there's a whole bit on that. So please check that out. Mr. Dosser wants to know my thoughts on used car prices over the next 12 months. It's really difficult, isn't it? It's people, I think, all expected car prices to sort of go nuts in one direction or the other over the last year, and they haven't. The crunch is going to be when we finally do get out of things and we find out which businesses are still standing, which actually were only being kept alive because of, you know, furlough scheme and all that jazz. So yeah, we shall try and see. George Osters wants to know what webcam I'm using because the quality apparently looks top notch in his words. Thank you very much. I get so frustrated with this whole streaming thing because I like the quality of all my stuff to be good, and this is like the one thing where I feel like I'm out of control. The webcam I'm using actually is not a webcam at all. It's my Panasonic Lumix. My Panasonic S5. It is Lumix branded. I was just looking at the lens there. So yeah, it looks good because it's a £4,500 webcam. That's why. It's a £2,000 camera with a £2,000 lens on it, connected via an HDMI adapter into the computer, and then for sound, I'm using my Sennheiser wireless mic. So yeah, so there's probably like £5,000 worth of kit just to get a flaky thing set up here. I probably should just use a webcam, shouldn't I, like everybody else? But yeah, there we go. Oh, Bob's got a more interesting question, which is £4,000 to spend on a cool daily. Neil has suggested Alfa GTV. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that, Neil. Actually, my BMW 130i, you can get one of those for £4,000, but be very careful because it's likely to be a bit of a ropey one. But that would be a cool daily. Or, you know what? The Mark 1 Focus that I drove today. The Mark 1 Focus, 1,500 quid that car, mint. And you know what? I bet you anything, you pull up to a lot of petrol stations with a Mark 1 Focus, that clean and tidy, it's going to get a lot of attention. You know, because people still really, really respect those things. So yeah, sort of forgotten hatches from a while ago. That'd be cool. Can you get a Mark 5 GTI for £4,000? I don't know, but yeah. So there you go. Okie dokie. Ricky's just sold his Mark 1 MX-5. What does he replace it with for less than £5,000? Mark 3 MX-5? Yeah. Mr. E30 wants to know if I've noticed E46 M3s going up in price. No, and anyone that wants to buy an E46 M3 like deserves whatever happens to them. That sounds awful, doesn't it? No, ever since that, me and E46 M3s, we don't get on. I have tried to review and have reviewed a number of them, and I would say the E46 M3 has given me more hassle than any other car except my Lotus. So yeah. No car question. Thoughts on Bitcoin? I don't understand it. I don't get the concept. I don't know how it works. Great to all the people that have made loads and loads of money with it, but I do not like the stock market. That's a very personal thing. I've known family members to have had real, quite serious mental issues off the back of things on the stock market. My grandfather had a full mental breakdown just before he died, largely triggered by stuff in the stock market going wrong. So I really don't like it, and I stay well clear of it. And Bitcoin to me just looks like, yeah, I just don't. I just stay away, honestly. Is the Suzuki X90 the beginning of the coupe SUV trend? I don't even know what a Suzuki X90 looks like, to be honest. Yeah. Okie dokie. What do I think of tuner cars like Alpinas or Brabus? Brabus are a bit wild and a bit odd, and I'm never quite sure what to make of them. Alpina, though, I think are cool. And the only problem with Alpina is you're always going to compare it to the BMW, aren't you? You're always going to go, well, this is an Alpina 5 Series. How much is a BMW one? Oh, it's an awful lot less money. Let's not bother. But having now, and you can't do that because Alpinas will always be worth more than the BM. So the actual real cost difference is not what it appears to be. But I did drive a D3 bi-turbo touring, and I really enjoyed it. It very much surprised me. So yeah, actually, I quite like Alpinas. That's that's my thought on that. Have I driven a Seat Leon Cupra K1? No, I haven't. Review a Multipla. I would love to review a Multipla. I have a good story about Fiat Multipla. I was in Italy a very long time ago with my father. Must be 17 years ago or something. We had a sort of lads trip to Rome, and we were due to fly back. We were flying with Go, if you remember Go Airlines. And back then, we printed out all our stuff, but we'd lost the most important page, the first page, which told us when the bus picked us up. But we'd kind of worked out. We knew when the flight back was and everything else, so we sort of worked backwards. We knew where we had to be. So we we got there, and this bus sort of wasn't there. We waited a bit. And there's another bus driver there. He's having a cigarette, and Dad goes up to him and tries to use, his finest Italian, which is just English but slower and louder. And says to him, "Where's the bus?" And the guy goes, "Oh, go." And he's like, "Yeah, it's the one for the Go." And he's like, "No, it go." Like, Yes. So we're like, oh, right, okay, let's quickly hop over to the train station, which is next door, get a taxi. And now this is how long ago it was. All we had left was 100,000 lira. That apparently was about enough to get us to the railway station. So we get in with this taxi driver in this Fiat Multipla. Now, those who have experienced Rome traffic will know makes banger racing look quite civil and orderly. So this Multipla is quite a big, wide thing. Anyway, we come up to these lights. Now, normally, the lights turn red in Rome, like a few cars kind of go through, then people stop. So, lights turned red, he's about 2 cars back, stop, wait. He gets bored, mounts the curb in this Multipla, just drives straight through, no F's given, right? Carries on going. Then he starts driving along. He's driving like a loon, and he starts getting a twitch, and he's like doing that. Me and Dad are in the back of the thing going. He's then bombing along on the old autostrada, you know, doing what God knows how fast. And then just takes his hand off the wheel, and he's kind of doing all this, having a bit of a sniff, having a bit of a scratch, no hands, none at all. Then winds up coming down to there's 2 airports. One is, I think, Champigno or something, and I can't remember what the other one was. And it comes off the motorway, off the slip road, just comes to a complete dead stop. And he's looking at these 2 signs, and we're shouting at him which one it is, but he's still looking, and then just decides to go for the one that conveniently happened to be ours. That was a very memorable drive in a Multipla. They are gopingly ugly. I'm not sure quite what they were trying with the first gen one, but yeah. So there we go. So, okay. Aliens or Alien 3? Aliens. Gotta be Aliens. Love that. Okay, would I rather have the second gen R8 rear-wheel drive over the first gen R8 with a 6-speed manual? Look, don't tell anyone, all right? But I think I would. I love that rear-wheel drive. It was awesome. And I've already got my 6-speed gated manual fix. Like, I don't need another 6-speed gated manual car. Strictly speaking, I've got, you know, the Daddy. I've got the Ferrari. Like, so, yeah, I did like the rear-wheel drive. Okay. Major Tom says he's bought a 2015 AMG GTS. Congratulations. Congratulations. I have yet to drive an AMG GT properly. I drove an AMG GTR very briefly at Millbrook. Kind of enjoyed it. But yeah. If someone says to me, have you driven one? I'll generally say no, because I haven't driven one in any meaningful fashion. Any manufacturers that I'd recommend about staying away from because they make rubbish cars or have bad customer experience, etc., etc. All companies are capable of awful customer experience. With car companies, I tend to find it's more related to dealers. Like, you'll find certain dealer groups tend to be bad. The whole point of dealers is to insulate you from the car company, so the car company doesn't have to deal with end users, because they can be idiots sometimes. So yeah. Thoughts on the Merc SL63? Yeah, they're quite cool. I've only driven one SL, I think. Yeah, and that's pretty cool. Vanika Africa wants to know if I prefer celluloid or digital. Look, I have a love of celluloid film. I still will be making at some point my car review on 16mm, because I said that I would do that, and I will do that because people donated for that, and that's gonna happen when it can, but it needs to happen at the right time with the right car. But honestly, practically speaking, in my film career, like, digital, it's easier, it's better. I prefer working with it. It doesn't have to look awful if you know what you're doing. Smart Pamar thinks it's a missed opportunity for Mazda UK not to give me press cars because they have a fairly good lineup of cars. Yeah, they do have a great lineup of cars. Yes, it's a shame that they said no to me. I don't think there was any, like, we don't know who you are. They just said, we're sorry, we're kind of full right now, so it's a shame. Let me see. Speaking of Star Wars, do I think the franchise is beyond saving? No. No, I don't think any franchise is, although what they're going to do next, I don't know. I just want them to... The problem is Disney just have to churn out stuff constantly. And the law of averages says sometimes they get it right, like Mandalorian, but most of the time it's just trash, like, for example, the last 5 films that they've made. So, yeah. What is my favourite car manufacturer? Now, that's a tricky one, because it depends if you mean, like, the product I like the most of, or the manufacturer I've most enjoyed working with. I mean, I've loved working with Ferrari, and they happen to make... I mean, it probably has to be Ferrari, because I really like working with them, and also I've liked quite a few of their cars. However, Kia would also really be up there. Genuinely, as a company to work with, Kia, just brilliant, wonderful people. Favourite manufacturer? I don't know. That's a great question, and I don't have a great answer. I used to really love Porsche, and I've just gone off the product and the company in quite a massive way lately. Although, Porsche are very nice to me. Porsche are really, really good, and Porsche are an excellent example of a company that can take some criticism. They look at it, they go, yeah, you've said some fair things there. We see where you're coming from. Do you want a car? So, huge respect to Porsche. Huge respect. I very much expected at one point, because I did a recent video saying, yeah, these things I don't like, and yeah. My thoughts on the Ineos Grenadier and how well it's going to do now it's being built in Germany and all that jazz. That's a Mystery 30 again, actually. I think the Ineos Grenadier is going to be the next like Suzuki Jimny. I think the first 18 months to 2 years, people are going to ask overs. They're going to want silly money for them. Like, they're just going to be like the silly car that everybody needs to have until they realise that what that is essentially what the Defender was. And for most people, it's a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. My buddy James's dad thinks he wants an Ineos Grenadier. He doesn't know what he wants. He never knows what he wants. But it's not an Ineos Grenadier because they're going to be really basic inside, deliberately, by design, and that's the right thing for them to be. But I think people are going to realise it's not a car you're just going to want to drive around every single day. So, yeah. Oh, donation from Sparky. Thank you very much, Sparky. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Very kind. Every little helps. Keeps the Pepsi Max topped up and the pizzas coming. Okay. Hazabaka is thinking of getting a new 2012 DS3. I'm really sorry, I haven't driven one. They look great though, and if it's your, you know, if you're 21, you want a fun car, like it's probably going to fit the bill. Get it? Like it's a cool looking thing. You do it. It's a bit different. It's a bit funky. Yeah, lovely. Okay. Why is Jeep the only successful American car company in Europe? Are they the only successful American car company? I mean, they own loads of other brands, I guess, but yeah, we do kind of like our Jeeps here. They're pretty awfully made, though, aren't they? Like, I guess maybe they've learned that from Alfa or whatever. Actually, no, Jeep can build stuff badly on their own. Have I ever been offered a Noble to test? Yes, I have been offered several Nobles, and I've said yes to all of them, and yeah, they just don't. Things have just never quite worked out with the Noble. Either they've been too far away, or they've been, you know, it's just not worked out for date-wise, or they've sold the car, or whatever. Like, Noble seems to be one of those things. And in fact, I'm even in touch with Lee Noble himself on Facebook, and I asked him if I could interview him, and he said yes. So I just need to organise that because he's a character. He's a character, for sure. So, yeah. Thoughts on YouTube Shorts? I think it's pointless. People have been making loads of shorts. In fact, my buddy Anthony, who does lots of stuff, 370Z, has the R8 GT that I drove, he tried some YouTube Shorts and said it did absolutely tragically for his channel. Much like YouTube Premieres. I mean, I do like one YouTube Premiere a year, but generally speaking, it's not a very good feature. Ben Lane says, I've gone blurry. Very sorry about that. The thing is kind of, the bitrate is all over the place for no apparent reason. Sorry. But it says it's not dropped any frames so far, so as long as you can hear me, if I look blurry, that's not really a problem. What would I prefer as a daily driver? A 645 BMW or a first-gen Jaguar XKR? The 645... The XKR is really tiny inside, and it does feel its age, whereas the 645 is way newer. Very nice car. I did daily. The only problem with the 645, rather, it's bloody huge. Like, it's a really, really big car. You don't really appreciate it, but it's big. Okay. Favourite 80s action movie? I do have a real soft spot for RoboCop. Yeah. Love RoboCop. I mean, is there better? Total Recall's 1990, so that doesn't count. I mean, Commando, if you want, like, ultra cheese, Commando surely cannot really be beaten. Okay, what do we got here? Yes, Florence, I know you're down there. Porsche 928 or a manual 5-speed DeLorean? I've kind of always wanted to go in a DeLorean, and I do have one on offer. One of the gentlemen that works at Bell and Colville has offered me his DeLorean to drive. So when things are better, I'm going to go and do that. And yeah, but the 928, if it's a later 928, like the red one that I drove on the channel, that's my mate Michael's. That was a lovely car. Really enjoyed that. If things hadn't worked out and I didn't get the 550, that hadn't worked out, that would have been a car I'd consider. But oh look, she's back. Thanks. Get your tail out my drink. The biggest celebrity crush, Heather Graham, obviously. Okay. Who is the most famous car owner that I've met? Oh, Neil sent me some money as well. Thank you, Neil. That's very kind. Most famous car owner that I've... Now, the famous car or the famous owner? I did meet Phil Reed once, who's a former motorbike racer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, really. I don't tend to be that fussed about famous people. This is not because I worked with millions and millions of them when I was in film, because the kind of films I worked on didn't really get many famous people at all. The only famous person I ever really worked with that any of you probably heard of was Jeff Hurst, and most of you probably haven't heard of him. So, yeah. Thoughts on the Vauxhall VX220? I did a review on that. Yeah. Apothecary Terry, tough question. Do I stay and watch and make pancakes? Pancakes. That's just rude. That's just... You know I'll get demonetized. You know that. Okay. Toyota FJ Cruiser, cool or not? Yeah, cool. My thoughts on Porsche's fuel. This synthetic fuel thing, I need to look into it more. It's one of these interesting things. I would like to know more about it before I do a video on it. It seems like something that'd be worth doing. I'd like to maybe chat to Porsche about it. Maybe I'll mention them about it. Yeah. Okay. You've already had money donated. I'll get you your drugs soon, okay? Junkie. Okay. Mission Nomadic has been looking at 15-plate WRXs for 14 grand with low miles. Yeah, you know what? I have. It's one of my. You know what? Someone did ask. I think in the last stream, what my like automotive guilty pleasure was, and actually, you know what? That's exactly it. It's the Impreza hatchback. I really want an Impreza STI hatchback. It's probably not a very good car. I've driven the WRX hatchback and it wasn't a very good car, but yeah, they look awesome. I hated them when they came out because they replaced my beloved, Impreza Saloon. Not that I had one, I really loved them, but that's a look, isn't it? The Impreza Saloon with the big wang. Yeah, but now that they look great. So there we go. Let's have a look. Excuse me. Okie dokie. Oh yeah, no, Paul is quite right. Ford is sort of American, isn't it? They do quite well over here. I think the thing is, British people actually don't tend to think of Ford as American. And in fairness, many of the products that we have here are more product of sort of Ford Europe than they are Ford America. This is the thing I love. When I go to America, all of my American friends over there think I'm going to be just obsessed with like the Corvettes, the Mustangs, the Charger Hellcats. Yeah, sure, I love those, but they don't get, like, if you've been to America, you'll know, everything's different over there. Like, every car on the road is not really something that we get here. Like, everything is just a little bit different, or has a different engine, or it's just a model we don't get. Last time I was over there, we had the Ford Flex, which I think, yeah, I did do a review on. I certainly filmed it. Whether I put it out or not, I don't know. But yeah, where will the channel be in 10 years' time? I don't know. Car Plebs has sent me $2 to say a few words about Car Plebs. What is Car Plebs? What does one do with a Car Pleb? I don't know. And Tanzil sent me some money as well. Thank you. $5 Canadian. I don't know. What's the exchange rate on Canadian dollars? Is the 991.2 GT3 RS worth the 23% premium compared to the .1 RS? I don't know if it is. I'll tell you something as well, actually. So I've not driven the 991.1 GT3 RS, but I have driven the GT3. And then in the .2, I've only driven the RS. But one thing I noticed, the engine in the .2 RS, extremely linear. Actually feels very much like, say, the 458 Italia engine. You'd think something that revs to like 9,000 RPM would feel super exciting. And it's a very, very good engine. Do not get me wrong. It's a great engine, in fact. But the .1 GT3 engine has a real excitement to it. It has a fizz. There's a step changes in power. Feels really old school. You really feel it come on cam. And the latest, and the later cars just don't do that. So I think there's more drama in the early car. Whether the RS is also like that or not, I don't know. I just don't know. Do I enjoy working on cars? No, not really. I'm not very good at it. In fact, I'm tragically bad at it. Okay. Lars asked me about the Murray T50. Yes, I mentioned it earlier in the live stream, Lars. So if you didn't join us, go back and have a watch. And I did talk about that. A couple of people talking about my video today. Thank you very much. Appreciate the kind words you're saying. Okay, Fred wants to spend 5 to 10 grand on a fun car to accompany his Volvo 940 estate. What a sensible car that is to have. A Swift Sport? No. Boxster S, much more like it. MX-5, much more like it. S2000, much more like it. I would say, or Clio 182, yeah, no, not the Clio, not the Swift. I'd say Boxster or S2000. You need to drive them both. They've got a real different feel about each other. My initial suspicion there would maybe be Boxster. Maybe be Boxster. 1 Series coupe or hatch. No. I would go for the hatch. Turbo Ray wants to know, do I invest in stocks and shares? No, for reasons mentioned earlier in the live stream. How would I compare the Lotus Evora 410 Sport to the 991.1 GT3, 991 GT4, 991 GTS? Honestly, the Evora is not even on the same plane as a 991.1 GT3 or a GT4. Like, no, the GT4 actually, GT4, the Evora is close to, and the Evora is a better steering car. The engine actually sounds better standard, I think. The interior feels more basic, but also more special because it's just not like anything else you'll have been in, whereas the 981 is like every other Porsche. But yeah, a lot of Lotus people try to pretend like the GT430 is basically like a GT3, that which is just a criminal misunderstanding of what goes into making a GT3. You know, as big a Lotus fan as I am, that's just not how that works. 981 GTS is a very good car. Again, the steering's just not quite brilliant in the 981 GTS. GT4 improved it a bit. But the Evora is just more special. Look, the Porsches are great and good, and you'll get the odd people chat to you about them, but the Evora has it's very much the supercar ownership experience. In terms of public reaction, people love those. So yeah. Matt Andrews has met Nick Mason. Awesome. And he seems like a proper petrolhead. Andrew wants to know if I think the Lotus Exige 390 is too loud. If they've put the same exhaust as they have on all the others, yeah, it probably is too loud. Certainly too loud for the most track days in the UK. Would I say a Jaguar F-Type P450 with very low miles is a good used buy? Depends on the price, but yeah, I actually, it's one of the upcoming reviews. The 13th and 14th of March, we've got a Jaguar double bill. We have the F-Pace SVR, the F-Type P450 all-wheel drive. So you're going to get a full review on that fairly soon. Thoughts on DS3 Racing and the Volvo C70 Coupe? I've not driven either of them, sorry, so I can't really say much. The Dacia Bigster. All Talk. Well, this is a very nice story. I love stuff like this. So All Talk sent me £10, which is extraordinarily kind. Thank you very much. And he sent me this donation because a few months ago I said to him to keep at his YouTube channel. He has, and he's now on 692 subscribers, and this is his down payment for having me appear on the channel. That's very kind. Thank you. I will happily appear on your channel at some point. I get a massive sense of satisfaction helping out smaller channels, especially ones that if you put the effort in and you work for it. I get random people message me all the time saying, will you appear on my podcast, will you do this or will you do that? If obviously it's an established channel and I like them, I'll say yes. But if it's someone that's just started up and they're 50 subscribers and they're like, will you come and be on our thing, it's like, no. Not being big-headed, but it's just like, work your craft, get your stuff to a good technical standard, because I don't want to spend like 2 hours of time talking to you and then work out you can't hear me. He says doing a live stream, which likes to flake out every now and again. Yeah. Oh my word. The Organo has just taken me back something like 15 years. Daddy or chips? Chips. Daddy is a sore subject. Any thoughts on the XJS V12? Yes, I was due to drive an XJS with the V12 in it. Benzina Paul also. Yeah, welcome. I was due to drive an XJS V12, which had a manual gearbox in it as well, 5-speed manual swap, so not what it should have had. And then something went wrong, so I'm due to drive that car again in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to come out. So I actually have got quite. I love driving Jag, so I've got some more Jag content coming out. So we've got the F-Pace, we've got the F-Type, we've got the XKR, and hopefully the XJS as well. George Austers asks, what would I do if YouTube ended tomorrow? Cry. Obviously, cry. What kind of music do I listen to? I have a soft spot. I've always sort of considered myself sort of someone that loves rock, but I don't actually listen to that much rock recently. And I'll tell you for why. Because I've upgraded a lot of my stereo system, and the sad fact is, most of the rock music that I listen to sounds like garbage. So I listen to it in the car, and by garbage, I don't mean the 1990s sort of pop band. Yeah, so I listen to all sorts of stuff. I listen to a bit of Madonna, a bit of Michael Jackson, disco. I have a soft spot for some disco. Yeah, just listen to everything, really. I was listening to a bit of New Order yesterday on my new Darleys in the living room. Yeah, so, yeah, there we go. Okay. What do I think of the aero engine cars, like the Merlin Bentleys? I really want to go in one of those. They look amazing. That's just mad, bonkers, bloke engineering, you know? Yeah, I want to go. I want to go. C32 AMG or C55. Well, I've driven the C55. I've not yet driven the C32, but I have got one lined up. So we'll be doing that soon. So I'm looking forward to it. I have a suspicion the 55 is probably the better car, but the C32 apparently does have a very different personality. So I'm looking forward to that. Fastest ever VMAX. It's the quickest I've ever gone in a car. So I did 172 mile an hour GPS verified in the Lotus. I also hit the top speed limiter in the Audi RS6, which was 174. Whether that was actually 174 or not, I don't know, but it did hit the limiter, and that's what it's set at. So, yeah, yeah, about that quick. So I've never gone anywhere close to 200, but anyone that has done 170 will know that really, you are really, really, really tramping on at that speed. So I don't actually own a car that does 200. I've maybe owned one once. The M3 probably would have done it. But yeah, so I would like to do it again at some point, but it's not something that really bothers me all that much, to be honest. Yeah. Best Audi I've ever driven in terms of character. Cough, 5-pot, cough. That's from Sam Beale. Oh, and Kay Hewitt sent me a quid. Much appreciated. Much appreciated, Kay. Thank you. In terms of character, the original Quattro really does have bags of character, as did the Audi 100 that I drove, the really early 1970, whatever it was, 100. That was a really cool car. I really, really did love that. It did have a real own feel. So, we're about 10 minutes from the end here, so we're going to try and fire through some questions. So, if you've got them, send them. If I don't answer them, then just ask me next week, because I got penciled in for Friday next week, but maybe I'll do it Sunday, because Sunday appears to be quite good. We've got quite a few. In fact, let's do it. Oh, 420 people watching, so thank you. That's definitely a record for me. That's amazing. The fact that 420 people tune in to watch me in my office talking nonsense for a while is fabulous. So I have been asked recently if I want to do any events or things where people meet up. I feel absolutely ashamed at the notion of holding like a come and meet JayEmm type thing, because that just sounds awful to me. I don't know why no one want to do that, but I do want to try and organise some car things, especially for my good petrol head friends that own pubs. So there's a pub not too far from me, which is owned by a pair of petrol heads. My friend Alex Brake, who has the Bird in Hand in Norfolk. So if you find yourself near Lotus, Hethel, and he's open. Please go and see Alex at the Bird in Hand because he does lovely food and it's a real Lotus themed pub. Great place. So I want to hold a couple of events, sort of like book a room out or something, like either on a Sunday or whatever, like a day like today. I would love to have a day like today. We get either Sunday roast on the go or a barbecue or something, and just say to people like, look, let's book something. We're going to be here. Let's get a bunch of people, come down, have a bit of a carmy. I will happen to be there. Like, let's just enjoy ourselves. That's what I'd like to do at some point. Favourite politician? Not going there. Not going there at all. The best car I've never driven is probably an F40, isn't it? Damien says it's very, very good, although I only just about fit in there. Okay. So Matt says that the bad weather has recently blown the cover off one of his neighbour's cars, which is a Triumph TR7 convertible. Would I ever test one? Yeah, I would, because they are supposed to be one of the most awful cars ever, aren't they? What do I think of number 27's Lotus Elise? I think that car has had a hard old life, and he knew it was going to be dodgy when he took it on. But yeah, that's a badly smashed up car. He knows that. He knows that exactly. Luckily, there's enough in it in parts if it really does go wrong. But yeah. I love his Ferrari, but he doesn't have the most luck always, does poor old Jack. He's lucky that he's very handy with spanners. If I had the cars he's got, I'd be totally lost. I just couldn't do it. Would I recommend earplugs in an Exige S3? Only for a really long journey, if it's a car that's really, really stingily spec'd with like no carpets or sound insulation or anything. They're actually not that bad. Okay. BMW 130i or E92 330i. These days I'll probably go E92. The reason I got the 1 Series in particular was because I had the M3 at the time, so I didn't want my daily driver to be essentially the same inside as my special car, so that's why I got the 1 Series. I know it's then nearly the same as the 3 Series, but yeah. What's my favourite hat? One moment. This one. I like this one. You'll either know what it is or you won't. So yeah, there are many, and each one tells a story. And yes, one day there'll be a video on them, but that involves me getting all the hats out, getting them in a decent order, and doing the video. And that's going to take a long time. Perhaps I might actually even do it as a live stream, because I can just line up all the hats and just talk nonsense about it, and people can just watch and they can watch later or whatever, and that'll be fine. Okay, would I ever own a McLaren once they hit sort of 50 grand? Yeah, I'd love to have a McLaren. I love McLarens. I love the 12C. That's a very, very good car. The 650 is a very good car. The 720S is a very good car. I wouldn't have really the 570 or the 600 LT. They just don't do as much for me. But yeah, so I would try that. If I could review any hypercar, what would it be? Well, Carrera GT, really. If you call that a hypercar. If you don't, then actually, I'd really love to try 918. Because everyone talks about LaFerrari, and that would be my favourite of the three. The P1 really doesn't interest me at all, because it just looks like Larry. But a 918, I think, would be a laugh. Because everyone says Daisy Cutter wants to know where Ferrari got the indicator stalks for the 355 from. I think they're the same as on a Fiat Coupe. They're very, very similar. Yeah. The Organo sent me some money for a portion of chips from the Chippy. Thank you very much. And is it just me? I know Five Guys are really bad for giving you too many chips, but like, I got something from the fish and chip shop the other day, and I mistakenly just said give me a large chips because it was about like £2 something or other. It was like a pallet of chips. Like, I had as many as I could sort of possibly... I was like, no, have I even had any? I didn't even put a dent in this thing. Oh, yeah. And you get a small portion and it seems to be basically the same, just slightly further away. Would I host a podcast series? Yes, I have done podcasts in the past. There are issues with it. Lots of other people do podcasts. They probably do them better than me. And in all honesty, I'm so busy, generally speaking, with just the regular stuff, the regular filming and so on and so forth, that I'm just not sure when I can have the time, because you need it to be regular, you need to do it, and it's just, it's awful. This is kind of the equivalent, really. This is as close to I get as a podcast, I think. So, yeah. If Le Mans is open to the world, will I be there? This year, yes, I will. Yes, I will. Did I like the Viper? The Viper was wild and leery, and I think kind of what I hoped it would be. I really enjoyed it. Want more time with Vipers. Want more time with Vipers. Do I think for road driving, someone would be disappointed with the Alpine A110S and its stiffer suspension over the regular A110? Yes, I suspect that they would be. Ian Gardner, is it true that I've got a tattoo that cannot be shown on camera? Yes, it's here, and it says, I love McLaren. No, I don't. I hate tattoos. I really don't like them. So, yeah. There we go. Yeah, I know I should have shared my chips with somebody else, but I can't really go and see people at the minute, so I can't just invite everybody around now. So, yeah. There we go. Let's pick another couple of questions, and then we shall... George Austers, any advice for your YouTube channel? Message me on Instagram, George. I'll talk to you about it. If you could star in a car film, what driver and what director? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't have minded being in GoldenEye. Looking at Famke Janssen in a 355 all day doesn't seem an awful lot like hard work. So, yeah. Henry wants to know when I'm going to get my dad on the channel. I probably won't. Okay. Favourite fast food? It varies. It varies a lot. I think, though, the all-time favourite has to be Chinese. Yeah, Chinese. Love the Chinese. Okay. So, and it's, I should get a tattoo for 500,000 followers. Yeah, no. And there we go. The Aston Martin Signet, the best car James Bond missed. So, yeah. No, Ian asked a very inappropriate question, which I'm not going to respond. Okay, and let's try. I want to find one really good question to end on. It's not going to be CLS shooting brake, yeah or no, although I will answer that. Nay, CLS is just a bizarre car, like really odd. If I could have a go around a track in any car, what would it be? Well, Liam wants to know when I want to try his Brabus Roadster. Yeah. Oh, am I friends with Clarkson? No, I've never, ever exchanged a single word by any form of communication with St. Clarkson. But I do, actually, one video I will be making is I want to do a little video talking about the VHS tape, the old Clarkson Unleashed on Cars. I've got a copy of that, and I would really like to get him to sign it. So I'm hoping someone, somewhere that watches the channel can get me in touch with him. Yes, I know he has a farm shop, but I don't want to be that sort of person. I don't want to be a Calvin's Car Diary and just turn up at his house and be like, please sign my thing. By the way, Calvin's Car Diary is a lovely chap, but that's a reference to his Jamiroquai. No, JK, yeah, the JK video. Yeah. So, yeah. What car would I like to blow up one day just for laughs? That's a good question to end on. What car would I like to blow up one day just for laughs? 5.9. It's got probably got to be a 595 and a Bath 595 for several reasons. First off, they're so commonplace that I wouldn't feel bad about removing one from the earth. Like the Top Gear episode they did where they got the, the write-off cars and they had the Mark 1 Focus RS, I felt mortified about what they did with that. And I'm pretty sure Chris Harris probably didn't enjoy it much either, because that just seemed to me just to be puerile and just like smashing up a piece of art. Like I didn't like that. I didn't like what was going on there. So the 595 is so common I wouldn't really care so much about it that I'd launch it into space. Also, the Abarth community are probably there alongside with McLaren community who just hate me with a passion. So I think it would just be hilarious just to blow one of their cars up and see what happened. So there we go. So there, that's my sort of hour and a half that I kind of assigned myself done. Thanks absolutely to everybody for dropping by. The 400 plus viewers that we had at one point in time, amazing, record breaking for me. Thank you very kindly to everybody that's donated. It does really genuinely make a difference to me. That's going to pay for my fuel to go and rescue the 550. So yes, self-inflicted. Ferrari owners, woe is me, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, so thank you all once again. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad that the live stream has been a little bit more consistent. Apparently, we've not dropped any frames in the full hour and a half. Why it's not been holding the full bitrate all the time, I don't know. I think someone somewhere senses when I'm going to do one of these streams and they go, yeah, let's just turn James's internet down a little bit. That's a Harry Enfield reference for those that lived through the 90s. And yeah, so there we have it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you as always. And I'll see you for tomorrow's video on the BMW M240i, and hopefully see you again for the live stream, which I think, based on the success of today, I think maybe I will change it to Sunday. Tatty bye. I'm off to get a pizza. Yum, 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 yum.